Hello, my name is Ryan Weems, BG Technical Service. Today we're going to do a BG cooling system service on this vehicle using the CT2. As you can see, we've got a cutaway here of a typical cooling system. This system is protected by coolant, okay? The coolant is designed to not only keep the engine from overheating, but it's also designed to protect all the parts that's within this system. We've got your radiator, obviously you got metal, you got aluminum parts in the radiator, we've got rubber hoses, we got our water pump right here, a thermostat, we've got the head, the cylinder head, we've got the block, and we've got the heater core, okay? The coolant in the cooling system is designed to protect all the parts. One of the problems that happens with coolant, when it does start to go bad, it becomes acidic, okay? When it becomes acidic, it actually starts eating away at this system. The goal here today is what we want to do is we want to use the CT2 to push or to take as much of that old fluid out of this system and replace it with new fluid. In the past, a typical cooling system service would be what we call a drain and fill. Simply what that is we would drain all the old coolant out of the radiator and replace it with new coolant. The problem with that is we're only getting out, at best, half of the old coolant, okay? We got all the old coolant out of the radiator, but we didn't get it out of the engine block, and components like the heater core. The goal by using the CT2 is to get as much of that old fluid out of the radiator, the engine, the heater core as possible. To do a cooling system service using the CT2, what we need to do is get the machine hooked to the cooling system, okay? There's multiple styles of cooling systems today. This is a typical cooling system right here where we can actually get to the upper radiator hose. If we can get to the upper radiator hose on the system, then that's where we'll hook the CT2 up. Today, some of the vehicles, they're coming out where we can't, or the upper radiator hose is not accessible. So on a system such as this one right here, what we would do is we would connect the CT2 to the external pressurized tank. Now I'm going to ask my assistant, Cody Lyons, BG Technical Service, to help us with the BG coolant system service. You ready?
Yep.
First, we're going to begin by adding a cleaner to the system. The cleaner is designed to take the rust, corrosion, and scale, put it into suspension with the old fluid, and when we do the service, the new fluid is going to push the old fluid out that will have all the contaminants in it. After we get the cleaner into the system, what we want to do is let it run for about 15 minutes to clean the system. While we let the engine run for 15 minutes with the cleaner and the cooling system, the CT2 runs off 12 volts. So we hook the machine up to a 12-volt power source from the vehicle. Next, what we need to do is we need to get hooked up to the vehicle. We've got multiple fittings to hook up to multiple cooling systems. So with the appropriate adapter, we're going to go ahead and get hooked up to this system. On this system, the disadvantage we have is we're going to be working with hot coolant. So what we want to do is we want to be careful while we're working with the hot coolant. So Cody's going to go ahead and get hooked up. We've identified the adapters that we need, so he's going to go ahead and do that. After we have the machine hooked to 12 volts, what we want to do is we want to take some coolant out of this reservoir. That way, when we hook up our adapters, we don't spill any, we don't make a mess. We don't spill any coolant. So we're going to use our service hose and our service wand or suction wand to pull that coolant out. One thing is when we're working with this system, we're working with hot fluid, so we want to be careful. Cody's going to hook up here. While he's doing that, I'm going to show or demonstrate a typical connection to when we can get to the upper radiator hose. This is a typical connection when the upper radiator hose is accessible, okay? So what we've done here, we've taken the upper radiator hose off. We use what we call our crossflow adapter, and we've actually put it in between the radiator and the upper radiator hose. The major advantage of this is we can add cleaner, okay, before we even start the vehicle. You know, hook this thing up, add the cleaner, open our ball valve, start the vehicle, and our cleaner will circulate through the system. That way, when the cleaner's done doing its job, we can turn the engine off, close our ball valve, and we can actually hook the CT2 up to this system. You know, that way we're not taking a hot system apart like we're doing over there. As you can see, Cody's already got our adapters hooked to the vehicle. The next thing, we need to hook the machine to the adapters. So we've got two hoses. One of them's marked with a black shrink wrap. That's going to be our pump hose. And the other hose is our used fluid hose. So once we get hooked to the system, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the machine on. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the control knob halfway in between used and new, okay? Next, we're going to turn our machine to transfusion. Okay, I'm going to start turning the control knob towards new fluid. What's going to happen is new fluid is going to go through the pump hose, through the radiator, through the engine, and back to the machine. Okay, the used pump hose, we're going to watch the used fluid hose. As soon as we start getting fluid flow, we're going to leave the ball valve in that position. So at this point, what's happening is the machine's pumping new fluid to the cooling system, and used fluid's coming back to our used tank. While Cody's doing that, our traditional system we've got hooked up here, we do basically the same thing with the CT2. What we're going to do is we're going to hook the pump hose. Once again, the pump hose is the hose indicated with the shrink wrap, black indicator, our used fluid hose. One thing we need to make sure is we close our ball valve. The goal on this typical system, where we can get to the upper radiator hose, is to push new fluid towards the back side of the thermostat, pushing the thermostat open. So our goal here on this system is we're going to push new fluid through the upper radiator hose, through the thermostat, through the engine, through the radiator, and back to our machine. So how we know the service is complete, there's two ways. One is to look at the used and new hose to see if they're the same color. As you can see, the new and used hose are the same color. That tells me that we've gotten all the old fluid out of the system and replaced it with new fluid. We can also just use the recommended amount of fluid for that particular engine. At this point, we're done doing the service, so what we need to do is disconnect the tool. As you can see, we've got coolant in this reservoir, okay? So to take these adapters off without spilling coolant, what we need to do is once again lower the level of fluid in that reservoir. So we're lowering the fluid level in the reservoir for two reasons. One, so we can take the adapter off without spilling coolant. Also, we're going to make room for our cooling system sealer and our conditioner. That's how you do a BG cooling system service. That's how you keep your engine cool for life.